I still go back to when I decided to become a sports editor. At the time, I was an assistant sports editor, and I think it was a Scoop Jackson column where he was talking about you had a better chance. He wrote about to a group, I think it was inner city kids, and it was you had a better chance of being in the NBA than you do of doing what I do as a columnist, as a Black columnist at a newspaper. That hit, that just kind of hit. And at the time, I think there were 4 Black sports editors in the country, and that I was like, all right, I want to be number 5.
Welcome to the News Nirvana podcast. I'm your host, Nick Parker. The News Nirvana podcast features conversations with media professionals from across the country, highlighting our ever-evolving business models and showcasing the strong and effective journalism produced each and every day. This podcast is made possible to you by the generosity of Town News. Town News delivers solutions, services, and guidance empowering local media organizations to thrive in an ever-changing digital world. Contact Town News today to learn more how they can help you thrive. Connect with them at townnews.com. Larry Graham, welcome to the News Nirvana podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to do a little bit of full disclosure. Larry and I have been friends for a long time. Larry, you actually were the first person I ever hired.
I actually did not know that. That's that kind of blows my mind. I did not know that.
All I can tell you is I remember interviewing you sitting at someone else's desk, not knowing what the heck I was doing.
Well, you did a good job. You made a great hire. I must say so myself. And I still tell everybody that crew, that job was easily one of the top 2 that I had in my career. Because, we all still stay in touch. I remember Trisha's 40th, maybe under 45th birthday. I drove from Wisconsin to Kansas City to go to her birthday party for a day, for a couple hours, and then drove back. That level of relationship, camaraderie, it was fantastic. I loved that job. I was there for 2.5 years. That was up until San Diego. That was the longest job I ever had, was working at the Lee Summit Journal.
That was a fantastic crew of just good people, but also incredible talent. There too. You and I were sports writers back then, and I had moved into news design, but we had a photographer that just made the job so easy.
Dude, I keep wondering where Jeff is, because I haven't stayed in touch, but he was one of those, hey, if I ever had to hire a photographer,
exactly.
It's possible to convince him to move, which just didn't seem like it would be in the cards.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
Well, look, I called you back to come on as we're putting together this new show, and I'm really excited about this podcast because I'm now able to talk to news industry people all over the country, whether it's print, whether it's broadcast. They might be in associations and different things. And your career has been really kind of fun to follow, not just because we're friends, right? But you've been all over the country. You've been to Milwaukee. You've worked for ESPN. You were in Paradise at San Diego Union Tribune for a while. Which I'm still jealous that you had a few years there in that weather.
Man.
You've been in Ohio. You still live in Ohio. Your career has taken you from covering prep sports in a suburb to national sports to running some newsrooms and working in associations. And now you've moved sort of out of journalism, and you're now in human resources, which I'm going to tease you about for a while. But you've launched your own company, Diversity Pledge Inc. Tell me a little bit about what that is.
So essentially, DPI, Diversity Pledge Inc. We help newsrooms, organizations expand their talent pool and have a larger slate of diverse vetted candidates for any job opening. So, for instance, we supply a couple of names that are already vetted. And part of our process includes that vetting process being done by your peers, other people in the industry, to make sure that, the names we share with you are qualified, more than qualified candidates. We make sure the salaries match. We make sure that you're getting a legit diverse slate of candidates for any opening that you end up hiring us for. And then we also help, we have some other, let's call them subcontractors or maybe pledge partners who also help us, create inclusive job ads, tidy up the job ads to make them more inclusive for diverse candidates. We do executive coaching. We do a little bit of everything so that we can help newsrooms become better, so that we can help make the journalism better. I mean, because it's our goal. We want to make this space in journalism and hopefully beyond one day very diverse, very inclusive, and we want to do it throughout the global workforce eventually.
I haven't had a chance to ask you this, and I kind of want to a little bit, because I know the easy answer is you want to change things because most newsrooms and staffs, they look like me, old fat white guys. But the name Diversity Pledge also comes from some work that you did with some other organizations, where you were actually working to have news organizations make a pledge to change the way they were hiring people. And I'm hoping you can give me a little bit of backstory on that one.
Yeah. So what happened was 3 years ago, I was asked to take over as diversity chair for a sports editors group I belong to, and I wanted to make an impact. I'd been into so many of those conventions for years where I would see maybe 3 or 4 people that look like me. And I wanted to fix that. I wanted to make a change. So I kind of had this idea: what if we could bring a Rooney Rule to sports journalism? And that's the whole NFL thing of, in theory, interviewing a diverse.
Yeah, we can talk about the effectiveness of the Rooney Rule.
Exactly. But I wanted to bring that to sports journalism, and I worked really hard at it for a year, and it sucked. I made almost zero progress. But 2 things kind of happened where, for one, I had a buddy of mine who, probably one of my best friends, he ended up getting laid off. And I drove 7 hours to kind of the middle of nowhere, Illinois, and I just wanted to cheer him up. And so we ended up going out one night, and he's a little bit, maybe a little bit country, and I'm like a whole lot of black. And we ended up just talking diversity and DEI and, things that have worked and all the things that hadn't worked. And we kind of put a plan together. And then I ended up, we started testing this new diversity pledge, and it's almost there. But then I get the API job, and, API, American Press Institute, it's a journalism think tank. And, you think a lot, you do a lot, you strategize. And with that job, I think I was able to put a little bit of the process, identify the process that could work when it comes to diversifying sports journalism. So I ended up doing it, and it started to work. Over the course of 6 months, I had, several different HR people, because when their sports editor would reach out to me, they obviously have to go to HR. And several of these HR people saying, "Hey, you should, why isn't this a business? Why aren't you doing this as a business?" And I'm just like, because I don't know anything about running a business. It just seemed like, hey, I'd help people find diverse candidates, for better part of my career. So,
well, if anybody follows you on Twitter, they're going to see you sharing openings all the
Yeah.
time, or hey, this person, here's a great candidate for a job. I mean, that's probably 40%
Yeah.
of your tweets.
Yeah, it's probably all of my tweets lately. So since I left API and realized I was starting this business, I've been very conscious of what I'm putting out there in social media. So even the jobs I've been placing as the business for the last 2 months or so, they're not all on Twitter. They're in other closed groups and things like that to help get people's reach out to have more people see it. But yeah, it's uh, we're trying to just make a difference, and it started in sports, and it just evolved.
Well, let's go backward just a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong here. That's when you were involved with AP Sports Editors, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So what didn't work when you tried creating this pledge and getting groups, and then you were just talking to sports desks, right, to sports newsrooms?
yeah.
What didn't work as you were trying to get them to take this pledge and make some changes?
I had some that didn't feel they needed to take the pledge, and that's fine. They felt they could do a great job of firing on their own. Not going to knock anybody for that if they're doing the work. But also, I didn't have a process in place. I didn't know what I didn't know what I didn't know about the business side of some of the organizations, like you know, the NABJs, the NAHJs, all the things that they do in that space. I didn't know that. I knew from my personal experiences, nobody wants to deal with a recruiter. I got kind of tired. Yeah, I got tired of having. I'm still kind of tired of having recruiters reach out, so that they can earn their commission off of using my Rolodex. That just doesn't seem cool. So my Rolodex is closed for business for recruiters now. So it was a bunch of things. And again, one of the biggest things was process. I wasn't keeping track of how things were being done with each newsroom. So as I identified the process and started having more discussions with candidates as well as hiring managers, some of the things just ended up starting to click. So even now, when it comes to talking to journalists, I don't pitch it as, hey, we work with newsrooms to find diverse candidates. When it comes to journalists, we're a free mentorship program, basically. We help journalists when it comes to salary negotiations, finding a job, resumes, tuning up your resumes, clips packages, offboarding, negotiations, a lot of things, or how to get a raise, a lot of things that you kind of don't learn when you are a young journalist or even an old journalist. We try to be a free mentorship program. So that's how it's pitched. We help anybody that wants a little bit of help. And then we make recommendations.
Just providing access to that kind of knowledge, which how many people do we know that don't realize, you and I talked about this off air earlier,
Yeah.
don't realize you can negotiate your exit.
Yeah, exactly. Some people, they still don't negotiate salary. I have folks that when I put them in touch with a hiring manager, they don't know that, hey, that was their first offer. You can still counteroffer. We try to share some of the tricks of the trade. Some companies, they don't negotiate salary. Other companies, they don't negotiate vacation. Knowing which one makes it a lot easier to negotiate. So, we try to provide a little bit of tips, tricks, whatever you call it. But we just want to end up helping. So that's kind of the goal. We figured, I'm already doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. So yeah, help as many people as possible.
Without delving into the COVID ruins everything part of this discussion, right? Like the
Yeah.
last year had its own challenges, and I don't know that we all have to relive them every time we talk now. But do you feel like just with the course of all the national conversations we've had over the last couple of years, right? I feel like I read the world or the national landscape like we're more willing to talk about these things now. We're more willing to talk about, yeah, let's change our view when we're hiring, and let's add something different than what it's been. But I also at the same time feel like the resistance to that has gotten louder. Like maybe we're pushing some of the resistance away, but the resistance still is louder than it was. Am I seeing that right?
No, I would say that's accurate. I mean, I don't think we're seeing enough of the change at the top when it comes to those C-suite level jobs in journalism. I don't think we've seen enough of the lack of a better word, verbal commitment from some of the organizations. But that being said, I do know a lot of that work is still being done. Not everybody believes in having a big press release that says, hey, this is our diversity thing that we're doing. They believe
news
in
organizations are the
getting
worst
the work
at press
done.
releases, right?
Yes. We are notoriously bad for that. But I think I almost prefer the organizations that are firmly committed to doing the work and not necessarily saying out loud, hey, look at me, over an organization that does. Because if you're doing the work, and there are a lot of them out there, that speaks for itself.
Yeah, I heard an activist that was on another show that I do, and she said, 2020 we talked a lot. There was a lot of talk, a lot of conversation, and her response though was, "It's 2021. Let's be about the action."
Yeah.
Follow up
Yeah.
conversations we had.
But I still think we're a ways away from where we need to be. I think more hiring's being made, but until more of it's done at the top, it kind of it feels, some of it ends up feeling a little bit performative to me, almost like padding your stat sheet at the end of a game. Hey, I just got my triple double. That
Right.
is a lot less genuine. So that's also why we have a policy. We decided this at the beginning of launching the company. We're going to work with organizations that have a sincere desire to improve DEI within the company. And anyone else, no. And how we define sincere, it's kind of an evolving definition. We have some metrics that, some things that we put in place to help gauge an organization's progress.
Well, that's what
But
I wondered. Like, what are specific metrics? Because, to me, that's a lot of feel, right? That's a lot of, I'm going to go talk to somebody and I get a feel for them. But are there real metrics you can follow?
Well, I know we're following. We kind of have our blueprint, and the goal behind it is to. I feel as though I've had some amazing bosses. I've also had some less than amazing bosses. And as someone that's building his own company based around diversity, I'm not going to have another amazingly bad boss again. And if I can avoid it. So to do that, it's you got to care. Your company has to care. Your CEO has to care. It has to be a sincere desire. I can't stress that part enough, because, if it is performative, if there's never any real change at the top, that's not the business that I necessarily need. And we've put certain safeguards in place. We have things that a way that we do work with some organizations that kind of might be on a cusp. So let's say, hey, they have no diversity at the C-suite level, but they do want to work with us. They've made that we feel they've made that commitment to DEI. When that happens, we'll say, hey, then we'd love to work with you on filling a couple of these C-suite openings. And after maybe 3 of those, then we can talk about some other positions. But we do feel that lasting change has to start at the top.
Well, and that was my next question. I mean, do we as an industry really have to focus top down in making this kind of change? I mean, I can go hire a reporter, right? And I can go hire an editor or a department manager, but do we really need to start up top?
I think starting up top makes sure that it stays consistent. Setting this new standard for hiring remains consistent. But also, it's not just about the talent portion. It is also about the retention portion. I had a boss tell me, publishers, newspaper owners, we love mortgages. It makes sure that someone is not moving. So, part of that retention is creating that environment where somebody wants to stay. Maybe it's the place that they fell in love. I met my wife in Ohio. I live in Ohio again. I do like Ohio, but I probably would have picked someplace else, if I wouldn't have met my wife and my in-laws were not 90 minutes down the road. So those sort of things, they matter. The life that you develop, not just in the building, but outside of the building. And so, yeah, it's creating that positive environment that makes people want to feel like they're a part of the community.
When you talk to organizations and they say, hey, I want to do this, I want to commit to doing things a little differently, I'm going to imagine that most of the responses come this way. And I'm going from a little bit of experience on boards that I serve on and different things, but I don't know how. How do I look differently? How do I change my perspective in the approach that we do to hire? Because everybody has the same hiring system for the last 45 years, right? So what do you, I guess, how are you talking to people about changing that perspective and that approach to looking at not only how we hire, but like you said, how we treat employees going forward?
So one of the things that we're taking a look at is putting together a manual that provides some tips so that we can offer training for non-diverse hiring managers on how to interview diverse hiring managers.
The News Nirvana podcast is brought to you by Town News, the creators of IQ Audience Plus. IQ Audience Plus replaces your old school, one-size-fits-all paywall with a smarter metering solution that targets visitors with custom offers, converting drive-bys into paying subscribers. Learn more at townnews.com/audience.
I was told a story of a hiring editor who simply felt, hey, this particular candidate's just not a good fit, which has kind of become code word for just doesn't look like me.
Doesn't fit our culture, right?
Yeah,
our company culture.
Exactly. And so it's providing a little bit of the training so that gaze is changed, so that it has to look like me. There are other skills, other standout skills that can be seen and identified that makes somebody a good candidate that maybe I am not as familiar with, but maybe I should be. So we are looking into putting together something for hiring managers on interviewing diverse candidates. But it is also putting together something for diverse candidates on being interviewed. One of the things I tell a lot of folks is, hey, you want to get into reps. You want to know what the process is throughout an interview. So what's that change look like so that it keeps happening throughout the organization? It's working with the managers, it's working with the new hires, and kind of making sure that they're communicating at each step of the process.
I'm curious, the way you were talking there, it made me think, and I joked earlier that you were the first time that I was involved in a hiring process. But you came into a pretty tight-knit news staff of, what were there, 6 of us on the group? One woman, all white guys, Was that an awkward place for you to come marching into?
I don't think at that time
And we're
it
talking
wasn't.
20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I before that I was at the Star for a while and we had a pretty diverse group. Um,
And maybe one of my favorite sports editors ever.
yeah. And so coming in to Lee Summit, I got to still do sports. I was able to stay home. Um, so I don't think I saw that as much as a hindrance or a problem or awkward. Um, to me, that was, I guess I kind of didn't notice. I know I noticed, but I didn't really, you guys were all cool. So everything just kind of worked, to be honest. Well, like all but one.
Well,
You guys were all cool. In
We don't
which
have to go
case, yeah. Now, all right. So yeah, now that you bring that up, yeah. So there was, for the most part, it went fine. It worked out fine.
I just wondered about that because as I was asking you about perspectives and not sometimes we just don't notice things, and it made me curious as to back then if that was an awkward situation and
So I've gone into other newsrooms. I've been in other newsrooms where I was the one since then. And I know that wouldn't be a situation I would easily jump into again. Yeah, but it's again that when we were in Lee Summit, you're right. It was a tight knit group, and everything just seemed to work. Me joining Trisha, her kids, figure out the things that Trisha Drake did to create, a community, family feel within that newsroom was fantastic. She pulled out all the stops. She was kind of more or less a blueprint that I would say for other managers that may face something similar. It was very inclusive. It was very welcoming, and I've also gone into situations where I felt like my legs were cut out from under me in the first 3 weeks, and I've identified I'm not doing that again. So yeah, it's wonky is the best way to put it. I don't know how to describe how it worked so well then and how I've had a lot other negative similar situations with a negative result since then.
is there a difference just because you have moved around in your career and seen different types of news groups and sizes? Is there a difference that you're seeing when you talk to people that run larger newsrooms versus smaller newsrooms?
No, to me, leadership is leadership. So you're good at it, you're bad at it, you're either one. The size of the organization kind of doesn't really matter. Not from what I've noticed, it doesn't matter because some people are really good at being a manager, being a boss. Other people are just good at being a supervisor. It's nothing wrong with it. It's not for everything. I kind of use the analogy. I have a classical violin degree. You should not have me in your orchestra. Doesn't mean I couldn't be there. Doesn't mean that maybe after another decade of practice, I wouldn't be successful. But, no, you shouldn't have me in that position. So that's how I kind of view sometimes with leadership. I mean, it's like anything else. You can have good and bad. But in my experience, the bad is just horrific, especially I would say now, I would use the trauma that can be inflicted on people of color in those newsrooms, because then they leave and they don't come back. And I don't think that's not where we want to be as an industry.
And I absolutely do not want to make this about being a trauma porn episode of the show, but I think, what are you seeing, I guess, or have you heard that are some of those experiences that let us know we do have to do things a little differently, that we've got to change the way we're hiring in the industry? I mean, can you give a little bit of a taste there? And again, I don't want to make this trauma porn and like relive everything, but I think people also have to know.
Yeah, I think last year's Twitter, all the things that came out on Twitter, I think Neiman Labs started it was either Neiman or Pointer. They started collecting those tweets of those stories that happened to people that forced so many resignations of senior leadership last year. But having those stories kind of in one place, and I'm pretty sure I know I have the link. I'll share it with you. But having that, we all saw it. It was inescapable. There's someone that's considered somewhat legendary in this field, and kind of one of her claims to fame is, she hasn't had to apply for a job in like 20, 30 years. She's gotten new jobs, but that's her thing. People come to her. You want to be a mentor under her. And she posted that even after 30 years, she's hesitant to share her story on social or elsewhere because of how traumatic it was. I was going through some of my notes, from a previous job just a couple weeks ago. And I saw a couple of people's comments, and it was triggering. I was useless to get any work done for the rest of the day. Because it brought up all of these negative experiences I've had. So it's the what's that have happened have been forget the pay inequality of knowing that the person next to you with less experience, younger, and that you might be outperforming is making an extra 20 grand more than you. Forget that. But it is the conversations that you might have to have where I had a boss that regularly said, "And you're black," at the end when he would talk about, hey, what I'm good at. Really? I forgot.
You're good at being black.
And so it's those sort of things add up quickly. So, and again, that's why I'm not going to have one of those type of bosses ever again.
Well, first I'll just say welcome to the club of being your own boss. It's a lot of fun. It's hard, but it's fun. So, and I didn't prep you for this beforehand, so if you can't say it word for word, that's fine. But what is the pledge? What are you asking people to pledge? So essentially just to hire from a diverse slate. All right. That's more or less it right now. We want to take away, the goal of it was to take away we don't know where to find qualified, diverse candidates. All right. Yeah, I get that. Is that the worst excuse ever, though? I feel like,
hey,
you hear all the time. You hear all the time. Well, they're not applying. You have to be active in everything you do, right? And then the basic lesson in writing is active tense.
Yeah, and it is a process. It's a lot of hard work sometimes staying in touch. But even from a revenue standpoint, I mean, they have all of those McKinsey studies that show a diverse team outperforms a non-diverse team by like 35%. That's from a bottom line, a revenue standpoint, which is it's been brought up repeatedly because the moral argument doesn't seem to work. So, hey, from a financial standpoint, it pays to hire diverse. So that's what we do. We try to make sure that we eliminate that excuse of we don't know where to find diverse candidates. When it comes to the whole idea of the diversity pipeline, I feel as though we want to solve it. and that's great. But I have not had any real trouble hiring diverse. In San Diego, I was given several hires, and it was right off the bat. Asian American, over 2 Asian Americans, NLGBTQ. It was, black, white, male, female. It was a little bit of everything, and we performed well. So I do think I don't necessarily think it's completely an excuse, though, because editors do a lot more work than they used to. Managing is a lot harder.
This is true.
So that's why we're here to help lighten that load a little bit, make it a little bit easier for managers. But we also tell them it's a partnership. So they still have to do some of the work. We're going to hopefully open the floodgates when it comes to candidates, so that you have more variety. We're going to give you a couple that we think are great, but hopefully we open those floodgates so that you have more to pick from.
That's the Larry Graham Rolodex, right?
Yep, exactly. And then some. I mean, it's advertising jobs in more diverse spaces. I mean, that maybe not necessarily all legacy media folks are involved or are active in. So yeah, it's again, it's making sure that it is a wide, diverse slate.
I'm going to go back to something you said just a couple minutes ago, where you said the moral argument doesn't work, so you have to go with the revenue argument. How deflating and defeating is that? I mean, I get it, but that seems like a horrible thing to have to say out loud.
I've learned quickly that counting on people to just do the right thing sometimes is going to be somewhat disappointing.
But right there, that you just spoke for every old cynical journalist ever.
So yeah, and it's keeping that in mind. I do know most people in this space know that revenue does speak volumes. How's that old saying go? If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Yep.
I mean, wait, who is that? Is that Wu-Tang? I'm trying to remember.
That might be.
But yeah, it's so it's creating the narrative, the argument for why diversity should be a priority within your organization. And it holds. Hopefully it's working. We're seeing a little bit more uptick in diversity, not just in journalism, but in other spaces as well.
Do you think, and I think this is the one thing that I haven't really hit yet, do you think that you talked about starting at the C-suite level to getting more? Do you think we haven't had more people of color in C-suite? Because typically, if I look at news organizations, the only people of color I see are on the news side. And most of the time when you move up, the legacy of our industry has been, if you move up into the C-suite, you're coming from the business side of the industry. Does that play a role in it?
I think...
I mean, I can't think of more than a handful of people of color that have been on the business side that I've worked with.
Yeah, but I mean, you've seen a lot of people. You've seen people come up not from the business side that are white into that top spot.
This is true.
That, and for me personally, one of the reasons that I had a colleague use the term journalism adjacent. The reason I feel as though I'm a lot more journalism adjacent than I was, I don't see the path there, or at least I didn't. I didn't see a lot of people at that top spot in the newsrooms that I wanted to be in, or with the news organizations that I wanted to be a part of. And if they're not there, if we aren't being represented, I figure, all right, I don't know how I feel about those odds. I still go back to when I decided to become a sports editor. At the time, I was an assistant sports editor, and I think it was a Scoop Jackson column where he was talking about you had a better chance. He wrote about to a group, I think it was inner city kids, and it was, you had a better chance of being in the NBA than you do of doing what I do as a columnist, as a Black columnist at a newspaper. That hit, that just kind of hit. And at the time, I think there were 4 Black sports editors in the country, and that I was like, all right, I want to be number 5. But as my ambition grew past sports editor, I didn't see a lot of the executive editors, the VPs of news, that looked like me. And so it was, I think I was doing a good job in journalism. So I kind of quote Denzel Washington in American Gangster, where he's like, quitting on top ain't the same as quitting. So I kind of view my step away from journalism as that. But there wasn't, I needed to see more representation at the top to give me more confidence to continue.
Well, I don't think you've stepped away. I think you're just not maybe producing actual journalism work anymore, but you're you're still in it, man. You're
adjacent. That's how I put it.
I know you are a goal-oriented guy. So, I mean, you said things like, I'm going to go to a big daily sports department. Yeah. I'm going to go be a sports editor. You like pushing yourself that way. So what's your goal? What's success with Diversity Pledge Inc.?
So it's huge and it's layered, because at least for this month, I just sent out the goal to the team yesterday. Our goal for this month is $100,000 in new revenue. And then, our goal for the year is to launch our nonprofit. Our goal for the next 3 to 5 years is to expand into other industries, using our format so that we can be in tech, energy, oil, finance. And, we also want to create a 10-year training program for diversity in journalism, so that it helps people at every step of their career. So that's kind of the goals. I say them out loud, and I only have the one revenue goal, and I just thought of that this week just because I figured I needed to have a better business plan, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I wasn't caring more about the money. But yeah, those have been kind of, we kind of have an outline, for what the next 5-7 years can be like. And it's, we don't want to chip away at the cookie of diversifying journalism. We're taking the whole cookie, we're breaking it in half, and we want to just fix it like fast. I think with the way that we're structured, we can do that.
That's exciting, actually. To take
and
scary.
Yeah, incredibly scary, and humbling, but also it just a lot of times I know I suffer from imposter syndrome, and who am I to figure this out? Go back to your sports department. I can see myself just doing that and saying that often.
I know when we talked before you made the switch, and I was trying to explain to you that the day you jump off the cliff to start your own business is one of the most exciting and frightening days of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to tell you the story sometime, but there wasn't a lot of fear. There wasn't a lot of excitement. There was a lot of, okay, I got to talk to my wife. But yeah, I'll tell you that story offline sometime, because it was, we're at a point where waitlisting newsrooms, and my last day at my last job was April 2nd. We've made tremendous progress. We've established some great partnerships, hopefully all of which should become public. My website is non-existent because we've been so busy. So it is fun now. But yeah, initially I just kind of thought not that it would be a 6-month vacation, but that hopefully everything would come into view eventually. It would just take a while.
Right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, because part of this show is to keep talking to people about the way our industry is changing. And the industry's having to change a lot of models that worked for a long, long time that aren't working anymore. It's, our audiences are moving around, coming from different places. We've got to go meet them. Our revenue models are having to change. And I think this is the first time I've really been able to switch that conversation a little bit and talk about the resources side, hiring people and how we look at building who is in our business. And so I think this has been a great conversation. And just as my friend, I'm excited to watch what you're doing, man. This is really, really cool. And I'm proud of you. I like watching what you're doing.
Thank you. As your first hire, hopefully I will continue to do you proud.
Look,
you got it right.
All I'm going to say is, dude, I'm sorry. I had no clue what I was doing. No clue.
This is good.
Whatsoever. Hey, I know you said your website isn't up yet, but you've been doing so well. How can people follow you? I know you are active on Twitter. How can people follow you and what you're doing?
I would say right now, visit my Twitter account it's at by Larry Graham. That would be the best way. Like I said, we want to be a little bit low key. We're crawling before we can walk, except it feels like we're running already.
Welcome to entrepreneurship, Larry.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm loving the club.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
That will wrap up our show for this time. We'll talk to everybody next time.
The News Nirvana podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or most any of your favorite podcast apps. The News Nirvana podcast is made possible by the generosity of Town News. Connect with Town News at townnews.com. The News Nirvana podcast is produced by Fredcasts. Think, speak, act,